NextWaveDV presents NAB 2013. Made possible by Kessler Crane, innovative tools for filmmakers. Red Rock Micro, introducing the one-man crew. Zeiss, we make it visible.
We are here at NAB 2013, and we're having another Bloggers Breakfast. We got a great crew here, so I'll let everybody introduce themselves. I'm Tony from NextWaveDV.
I'm Joe from nofilmschool.
You're next. What's up?
I'm Dan.
I'm Phil.
I'm Claudia from Cinema5D.
I'm Sebastian from Cinema5D, and I'm eating very healthy food here. Thank you, America.
That's pretty impressive.
Nice. Caleb from DSLR Video Shooter.
Ryan Koo, nofilmschool.
Nino Leitner from Cinema5D, also healthy food.
And me, the camera guy from NextWaveDV.
That's some good whip pans there. All right. So you guys, it's Wednesday. We've been on the show floor a few days. Got a chance to see a few things. I'm going to say that this is the year of 4K and motion control. I'm seeing a lot of people with their own version of motion control. A lot of, obviously the Movi, Kessler's come out with some really cool stuff, and then everybody and their brother has their version of 4K. And it seems I haven't seen 3D hardly at all. I don't know about you guys, but what are your thoughts? What stood out to you? Anyone?
I think that is 100% right. Done.
All right, we're good.
All right, that's a wrap. That is a wrap. That was NAB
I
this
feel
year.
like the manufacturers have pretty much given up on 3D. I think they realize that until they can do it where people don't need glasses, like no one wants it. And plus, there's no content for it. There's literally no content.
It's distracting.
So, right.
But that's not. I think that's not a problem. I mean, they would have created the content if the demand was there. But people were, in the beginning, everybody was, whoa, 3D, it's not really new, but it's now in every movie. And then they realized that people started going to 2D projections of 3D films more than the 3D films. And then, that died quickly. And most people still get a headache. Not most, but at least half of the people.
Well, like 10% of the population can't even see 3D.
Well, I always say 3D is only effective when you're on a wide shot with perspective changing. If you're on tight shots, it doesn't work. And fast cuts, still, it doesn't work either.
It needs to be shot for 3D, but the problem is they never did that. They always tried to make the 2D work as well. But if you shoot for 3D, you have deep focus, no shallow depth of field, basically.
So everything that we're used to doing in a traditional film doesn't work. Tight shots in 3D are distracting. Fast cuts are distracting. Fast movement is distracting. The only thing that really works is a wide, large shot with slow movement. And that, who wants to watch an entire film like that? So 3D, I think for video games, for other forms of immersive storytelling, it could be useful. I've been to Universal Studios. They've got some 3D rides there. That's kind of cool. That kind of works. But for filmmaking, it's the wrong place for it.
Unless we can all start putting like rides in the theaters. Every theater. Every theater would be a ride. Yeah.
If anybody was to take it seriously, there must be a 3D only version, no 2D version, because then you have to change how you shoot a film. But they never did that because you can't risk that.
I'm sure Peter Jackson wanted that. I feel like he wanted it 3D only, but they're like, no, we're not going to let you do all 3D only.
48 frames per second.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did you see it? 48?
I saw 4K 3D, 48 frames per second, and I saw it in every horrible format that you could see it in.
Which one did you like the most?
I like 2D 24. It's the most familiar. It was the most comfortable to watch. It was the least distracting. And every other thing was ineffective. To me, the 48 frames, it added detail that didn't necessarily need to be there.
Okay,
People are like, it's like you took.
It's more than 6 people. We have to put the recording on the check. How do you want to do that?
Put it all on mine.
On one?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry.
This is what happens.
Can you put the gratuity on one?
Gotta love Vegas, baby. Anyways, 48 frames was unnecessary. 3D, of course, was ineffective.
Honey, you can check right here anywhere, so we can just reopen it for you. We don't have to call the manager and make him come back up.
I can give you my receipt.
Yeah, that would be okay, and then you can check to make sure that we didn't do anything wrong.
Very good.
Sean.
Okay.
You get on this?
Thank you. Here, you don't have to
This is
go
going
over.
in the review.
Tax write-off. Anyways, I was very happy with the 2D version, and I hope 48 frames dies a horrible, horrible death.
I think it was weird to begin with to shoot a fantasy film looking real, you know.
Right.
The argument of 48 frames is it looks more real, but it's a fantasy film, so it ended up the first half of the film looked like theater for me. It's like, you know, this is a prop, this is, you know, a set. It looked like cardboard. It looked like it's
I
terrible.
only saw it in 48. And
Yeah,
it
me
was
too, me
distracting,
too.
and I had a headache.
Yeah.
It felt like you were watching the behind the scenes of the movie. I kept waiting.
The second part of the film was like a video game.
Yeah.
All these whites, you know, action stuff. I mean, it was more enjoyable than the first part because also the fun, all the humor didn't work for me at all. It was so cheesy and but people who watched the 2D version told me that it works better. Like Vincent said, well, actually audiences reacted differently to the 2D version. The humor in the 2D version.
When they had the opening shot with the characters from the original film, it's like I literally felt like I was watching some sort of a parody. You know, it's like these guys are there again, and this is a weird frame rate, and it's like, all right, when's the SNL sketch going to be done? So, all right, 4K. What are you guys' thoughts on 4K? That's very much a hot topic. Everybody's got their own opinion on it. You know, we were talking to Rodney Charters yesterday. He likes the progression of camera technology for light sensitivity and all that kind of stuff, but he could care less about 4K. I personally, I like to get 4K for some of the visual effects and the intensive compositing stuff that we're going to be doing in our production company, but I don't ever expect it to be a delivery medium that I'm going to end up handing my client a 4K image. Nobody needs that really.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I have no problem with it, but because all the content I create for is pretty much all web, you know, no one's delivering anything on a DVD, or for sure there's no way I'm going to be delivering anything with 4K. To me, it's just a tool for having more flexibility in post. But thinking about whether it's even necessary, I think it's nice as an option. Whether it's something I would look for in my next camera system, I don't know if that's a reality. It would be nice, but the delivery, definitely not.
To me, I think the issue is actually not just whether you have a monitor and a TV, but how do you finish in 4K at this point? And it's just not a reality for 99% of productions, you know, regardless of what they shot on. Like, they're finishing Prometheus and they're finishing Oblivion, and all these movies are shot in 4K and finishing in 2K. So I think it's a real thing. I think I can see the difference. I think that as soon as the next Apple iMac has a 4K monitor, everyone's going to say, man, this 1080p file looks tiny, and it's going to be a reality and a real thing, but we're definitely not there now. And, you know, the projectors in the theater are 4K, but the pipeline isn't, the playback isn't, the finishing isn't, so it's all that intermediate stuff that needs to be in place to actually see the difference in a 100-foot screen, which is where you really see it.
You guys think H.265 is going to be a big changing for that?
Well, you basically need that in order to push 4K over any network. But I honestly think that 4K won't catch up in the home, you know, because if you look at studies, how big a screen must be and how far away you have to sit from it, it's ridiculous. I mean, it must be at least, I think, 60 inch, and you must be this far apart, otherwise you don't see that much of a difference, you know. And it's like Blu-ray. I think it will end up like Blu-ray. You know, Blu-ray is a niche thing.
Right.
There are lovers for it. Yeah. And but it won't catch on like the TV, like HD TV did in the beginning, and it won't catch on like in general, apart from Blu-ray. But it won't catch on like, you know, DVDs
Yeah.
or something
Will it
like
be
that.
something where like eventually all you'll be able to buy is a 4K TV?
Right, where the manufacturers will push it and that's all you can get.
That's definitely what's going to happen. It's good. They're going to make it like, all right, in next year we're not going to make any more 1080p TVs. Like that'll be it. Just be 4K. I think that's something we talked about last year, where that will be really the transition where you can start exploring what you do with your content, because everyone will only be able to buy 4K TVs from now
And
on.
then that's kind
Are
of what
there still
Apple's done.
720p TVs? Like,
Yeah.
I think so.
there still are. So there'll always be
little ones,
Yeah.
though, but the big
Yeah.
ones are all 1080p now.
Right.
So that's one of those things where.
But I mean, they just push this because they are spoiled, because they sold so many big HD TVs now over
Yeah.
the past 5 or 10
That's why
years
they
or
pushed
5
3D.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like how long did we have the old TVs? You know, 20 years. Like
right, people are replacing their TVs.
people will.
now.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that people are willing to replace their TVs as much as they do replace, you know, computers. I mean, I have a 55-inch full HD TV at home, and I see no reason at all to upgrade to 4K at any point, because you know I can't sit that close to the monitor that it makes actual difference. It makes a difference for computer monitors and grading and all the professional stuff, and you sit really close. I mean, if you have a 27-inch iMac, you know it makes a difference, the resolution, because you're very close to it. But at home, I'm not sure. It will catch on in cinemas. I think every movie will be 4K within 3 years. But at home, I'm not sure. I mean, they want to push it, but I'm not sure that it will catch on.
But the cinemas have also pushed what happened for consumer and electronics. I mean, they did widescreen because there was 4:3 TVs, and they wanted to be able, because there were 4:3 movies, obviously. Then they did widescreen, so it was something different. So go to the theater, and then now we all have widescreen TVs. They did 3D, and then they did 3D TVs. So I think 4K in cinema is going to eventually push 4K on the consumer end.
But it won't happen at the same time, because the content is missing, and the delivery, now they are, you know, experimenting with stuff, and Sony has a way, and Red has a way of doing it. And but I think H.265 will be a big thing for this if it ever happens at home.
Yeah, I think it's definitely coming. Like, it's not going to be, like you said, the same as HD, because HD, we have these giant TVs that we're doing 480, and so really going HD was just catching up with the size of our TV. But the guy at, I'm trying to remember his name, at Able Cinetech talked about it, and it's someday it's just going to be a reality where it's like trying to find a 720p TV or a SD only TV. It's going to be a lot harder to do. And my uncle's standards are that the 4K is all that they're trying to figure out. And so I think eventually it's going to happen, but definitely not at a rate that HD did, because HD was literally just catching up with the physical size of our TVs. So 4K may take a little longer, but it's going to happen.
I mean, you look 20 years ago, and this is another question too. Like 20 years ago, you know, everybody had maybe like a 24-inch TV in their house was a big screen TV. But now it's like if your TV is under 30 inches, it's a small TV. You know, 40 and 50 inches are big screen TVs. And you know, we see the sci-fi, you know, theoretical futures where people have walls. You know, their TVs are. I mean, is that going to be the future? Are we actually going to have a section of our house where you would literally have a 100-inch screen just in your living room? And would that be where 4K?
Yes. 100-inch, absolutely.
Yeah. There's no reason why it won't happen. No, I mean, it's one of those things where,
Yeah, I have a 100-inch screen in my living room, and it's a white wall that I have a projector that throws on it. And once you have that, it happens to be a living room that has no windows, so it's perfect for it. But once you have that,
Yeah, Sean and I have a 135-inch in my basement.
yeah.
And but you see like some of those sci-fi films or whatever where like in the living room you flip on the switch, it's a wall, and then all of a sudden it becomes a screen, stuff like that. I mean, I could see. We're talking about like you can't see the difference at 60 inches, but if there's technology where it literally it's your a cabinet, and then all of a sudden
I mean, no average person will ever have a screen that big, but for cinephiles, definitely.
Well, I don't remember the name of the technology, but there's a.
Everything's only up and up. This gentleman.
Oh, okay. So what happened is she voided your first one for $14 completely, and then we reopened it and did the 14 plus the tip, so that's your total, 32. Okay? So keep that one for you, and if you'll just sign these two, here's your card back. All set. Sorry about that. Okay. Here's both of your copies. Thanks, guys.
Right there.
Thanks.
Everybody. Why is this not in 4K is the question.
Thanks,
Tony.
Grab this for a second.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
I was just saying I've seen, I don't remember the name of the technology, but it's part of immersive for video games where it expands the screen on your wall too, so you have your screen on that you're playing on, but also projects on the wall too. So I mean, you're talking about, where you'll have your whole wall would be a screen, so I mean, it's heading that direction kind of already. I don't know if it'll catch on, but they're starting to make things like that.
Maybe. I mean, if you think about, when TVs really took off, everyone had like a TV in a box in the corner of their living room. And now think about it. Within a certain percentage, who doesn't have at least a 36-inch panel or even bigger? Like, so many people have 46 bigger, and that would be like mind-blowing. What? 5, 10.
Especially at the prices you can get them at now.
Oh yeah,
It's really easy.
So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road, because things get to a certain point where it makes sense to like have a wall dedicated to that in your house.
But I think in the near future, the use for 4K is mainly cropping into the image for post-production. And I'm looking forward to a camera at some point. Hopefully, there will be like a digital zoom, a seamless digital zoom into my 4K, like a full HD, not only a 1:1 crop, which is a problem. I mean, the crop modes are nice, but you're very limited because it's always the same magnification. If there is like some processing and debayering involved, they could maybe make a camera where you practically have like a zoom rocker, and you zoom into your 4K with any lens, and that's pretty cool.
Doesn't the Sony NEX something or other, the shoulder cam from Sony has like a digital zoom? Yeah, the EA50.
And the VG900.
They both do
works
that.
pretty good.
They both do the weird digital zoom.
Right.
Usually the quality is, you lose a lot of quality still.
With the VG900, it's a full frame sensor, and so I believe it's dropping. You can play with, bouncing back and forth. That's a fun little camera, actually.
But you made a good point. Like to crop into one thing is a lot easier than to zoom in, because then you get aliasing issues.
Like the new Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera, the whole point of it is being, having a small camera. You have only a pancake wide on it, and you have still kind of zoom you can use. If that was 4K, if at some point the processing is fast enough, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then you got to go to the part where like, obviously a zoom isn't just a crop, it's also
you need pristine glass because you only use a very small section of the glass. But that's the same like when you use the GH2, GH3 crop mode. Looks terrible on most of the Lumix lenses. Once you use a Voigtlander or any of the good ones, it shines. Or even the old Canon FD glass with an adapter. It's beautiful. It looks more filmic because the glass is not perfect, but it's not as plasticky looking as the Lumix glass.
All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is motion control and camera motion. The Mobi changed a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of other manufacturers with jibs and dollies and sliders and a lot more motor controlled stuff than in previous years. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Kessler. I own a lot of their gear, and so I've been totally getting the motion control more and more myself. And their CineDrive system, really makes it a lot more easy to do for all these different axes. What of you guys have worked with motion control? How much do you find it to be a benefit or something that you go to at all?
I've played with the Kessler stuff a little bit, but for me, the application, almost everything I shoot is monopod sticks and handheld, so it never made sense to have this like giant rigged out motion control when I don't really have an application for that. So me personally as a shooter, I don't really use it that much, but it's really, really exciting to see the tech and how smooth it's getting, and the software behind it. And for what always turned me off was like the motors, and it just felt so, it had no, that's what I'm looking for. The mechanics of it were so jittery that it never made sense. But now, like on the show floor, I just looked up the name because I saw it the first day. Emotomo. They make like a little box. They're a smaller company. They just got started. For like $700, $800, you get this box with a head, and like what looks like a Wii controller with a joystick. Really, really simple, but it's very responsive. And when you let go, it doesn't just stop. Obviously, it has a nice fall off. And to see that kind of stuff in multiple different price ranges is really cool. I can see it as a great tool, but I personally haven't really found a need for it.
I have not. I mean, I think the talking about the CineDrive, the iPad app is amazing, and it's, you know, democratizing the ability to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the kind of stuff that I've shot, it hasn't. I guess for visual effects is what, for me, the ability to redo a camera take in the exact same motion and do compositing, that's probably the thing that I'm most interested in about it, because that used to be such a high-end.
Yeah, it was like it would only be like a $30,000 piece of gear, and now like anyone can buy it, pretty much.
Yeah, it's much cheaper in that respect. But I do everything like handheld or sticks, so I haven't really played with it.
You know, I thought.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of motion control at all. I mean, Well, there is a big demand for. I have a lot of clients. Actually, I had a client, one of my biggest clients, an agency who I work with a lot, and they have a lot of big clients, and they always hire me for their, commercials and stuff. And actually, the movie went so far that even this guy heard of it, and he sent me a link. This is awesome. We must use this on this and that. So I'm thinking about buying one. I haven't decided yet, but I got my pre-order. But it is pretty cool. But I have to try it out if it's actually, what I want and what I need, because very often I ask, well, not often, but sometimes I hire a Steadicam operator, and these guys charge 1,500 euros a day. So, if I can use Movi for a few weeks, it makes its money back. So, and that's pretty amazing. But I have to try it myself in order to be convinced about it, because Vincent Laforet says it's not replacing Steadicam, and you still have the kind of, these up and down movements from walking. These are the ones that the Movi cannot, get rid of, and that might be a problem. But yeah, I'll have to try it out.
And nothing can replace, like, when you've seen and worked with like a legit Steadicam operator who's done his whole life. You can't touch that. I mean, those guys work magic.
They're complex moves. To me, I've tried to pick up Steadicam, and I've tried to, there's a huge limitation unless you dedicate yourself to it.
Yeah.
And so the attraction to me for the Movi is just being able to get a piece of gear that I could get a similar shot, again, not replacing a Steadicam shot, but something where we drove out to Canada and back, 70-hour trip. We had to bring all of our equipment, our dolly, jib, slider, for all the different stuff that we wanted to do while we were out there. And I'd say about 80 to 90% of the shots I got, I probably could have gotten with a Movi, but I could have flown rather than drive. So that logic right there, if I can consolidate that and be faster back and forth and not taking 3 or 4 days to get to a location and then still shooting and then coming back, for sure. I like that idea very much. And having majority of your motion control, or, your motion stability in a Pelican case that big,
Did you pre-order one? Or I want to? I haven't yet.
I have to justify it. That most.
You can at least get full refund. So.
Yeah. Don't tell me that.
That's why I did it.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up. Any thoughts that you guys have? Anything else impressed you on the floor?
It's quite a slow show, to be honest.
Yeah,
I expected much more, especially from the camera manufacturers. I don't know what ever happened to Panasonic. I mean,
Panasonic did nothing, right?
Yeah. They peaked at the AF100, and then that was 4 years ago, and nothing.
I think they probably realized that maybe their margins are too narrow on the camera, so they focus on the codec development. But the problem is, they are the only ones using their codecs. Their codecs are amazing, and they always have been among the best, or even the best. But if you don't have any cameras using it,
exactly.
I mean, I don't know what happened to them. But other than, it's again Blackmagic that stole the show,
again,
and Movi, but only because there was nothing else worth really talking about. Not much.
What's interesting is I feel like it was kind of pushed in the back, but the fact that Red set up a clean room
I was just
in
saying
their
we have to talk about
they
that.
set up a clean room in the show where they're replacing sensors in a camera, which is like, it's one of those things where it kind of got pushed to the back because I don't think a lot of people were talking about it, but it's kind of crazy that they're doing this at the show where they set up this room and it's a completely white room and they're replacing sensors on cameras inside this room, inside the show.
Early M's are getting it replaced. The reason that it didn't get publicity is that Dragon is done on the hardware side and the firmware side, but the color science isn't done, so they couldn't make a splash by releasing
showing something, right.
a short, a demo film. Like imagine if Moby had the unit on the floor but didn't have the Vincent Lafayette
It wouldn't be the same thing at all.
movie. Like
Right.
that's what gets you the press and the attention, and they didn't have that, and it'll be here in a few weeks, presumably. And I'm sure that they're miffed that they didn't have it ready for their big launch, and they have a content theater and everything. But you know, that's the reason why it hasn't gotten publicity. But that was the other thing for me too. It's like Blackmagic, Moby, Red, and then a lot of gear, accessories and stuff. But,
Cool. Well, thanks for your time, guys. As always, good to see you. Good to hear your opinions.
Subscribe to NextWaveDV, where filmmakers get educated.